Be me, 34. Lived as a woman for most of my life. Worked as a logistics coordinator at a shipping company for 8 years. Always considered myself someone who saw through the bullshit. Spent my 20s and early 30s absolutely convinced men had rigged the game. Watched mediocre guys at work get promoted while I had to fight for every scrap of recognition. Saw how they could be direct and get called assertive while I was aggressive. I noticed how they could dress like slobs while I had to maintain a whole appearance routine just to be taken seriously. Sat through countless meetings where men interrupted me, talked over me, explained my own ideas back to me. The dating shit was its own nightmare as a woman. Constant harassment, unsolicited dick pics, guys who thought buying me a drink meant I owed them access to my body, walking to my car at night with keys between my fingers. That whole performance of existing as a woman felt like playing life on hard mode. Then there was the invisible labor everyone expected. Organizing office birthday parties, remembering everyone's dietary restrictions, emotional caretaking for everyone around me. My male co-workers could just exist. They didn't have to smile constantly or manage everyone's feelings or make themselves small in meetings. I watched them take up space, both literally and figuratively, without consequence. So yeah, I bought into this framework pretty hard. Spent hours analyzing workplace dynamics with my friend Sarah over wine. We'd dissect every microaggression, every instance of male privilege. It felt good to name the problem, you know? Around age 31, I started experiencing this weird disconnect with my body. Had always felt sort of neutral about being a woman, never super feminine. Started wondering if maybe the dysphoria I'd been ignoring for years was actually gender dysphoria. The more I thought about it, the more it made sense. But I'll be honest, part of me also thought, what if I could just opt out of all this bullshit? What if I could move through the world without all the baggage that came with being perceived as a woman? I spent 2 years in therapy working through it. The therapist was careful, made me really examine my motivations. But I was certain, or certain enough. Started testosterone at 33. Low dose at first. The changes came slowly, then all at once. Voice started cracking like a teenage boy's around month 3. Body hair came in thick and fast, which honestly I wasn't prepared for. Face got angular, jawline sharpened, lost the softness in my cheeks. My body redistributed fat, shoulders broadened. By month 8, I was passing consistently as male. Legally changed my name to Lucas at the 1-year mark. Got top surgery at 18 months. Work had been complicated, but mostly supportive in that corporate diversity initiative kind of way. They updated my email, sent out a bland announcement about respecting people's identities. I transferred to a different regional office where no one knew me before. Fresh start as just another guy in logistics. That's when reality started hitting different. First major incident was 3 months into presenting fully male at the new office. We had a shipment emergency. Massive delivery that came in wrong truck. Needed to be manually unloaded and resorted. My manager William just looked at me, and 2 other guys, said, "Lucas, Jake, you 2 handle this." There was this woman on our team, Paula, standing right there. In the old days, I would have been Paula. They would have had the guys handle it while we did the paperwork. But now I was supposed to be one of the guys. These were 50-pound boxes, hundreds of them. Jake was this stocky dude who clearly worked out. He started hauling them like nothing. I struggled with the first one, my back immediately protesting. Jake didn't offer to help, just kept working. I couldn't ask for help, because what kind of man can't lift a fucking box? Spent 4 hours doing physical labor that left me destroyed, went home that night and could barely move. No one asked if I was okay. William didn't check in. Jake didn't notice or didn't care. I just did what was expected, and that was that. It was such a small thing, but it shook me. As a woman, if I'd struggled physically, someone would have noticed, offered help. Now? I was just expected to handle it. The loneliness crept in slowly. I'd always had this tight friend group, mostly women. We'd text constantly, check in on each other, meet for coffee, and really talk. Deep conversations about our lives, our feelings, our struggles, after transition. Those relationships got weird. Not because they were transphobic, Everyone was supportive in theory, but the dynamic changed. Sarah stopped texting me every day. When we did hang out, conversations stayed surface level. She didn't share relationship problems with me anymore. I realized I'd been moved to a different category in her mind. I was no longer part of the sisterhood, no longer a safe person to be vulnerable with. Tried to make friends with guys at work. They were friendly enough. We'd talk about sports and work stuff. But every attempt I made to go deeper got deflected with a joke, and tried to open up to Jake once about feeling overwhelmed. He just said, "Yeah man, work's crazy," and changed the subject. I'd been around male friendship as a woman, but being in it was completely different. There was this wall I couldn't penetrate. Everyone kept everything light, surface level, safe. Nobody asked how I was really doing. Nobody checked in. I could have been dying inside, and no one would have noticed or asked. The compliments stopped completely. Sounds shallow, but holy shit, the absence was deafening. As a woman, I got regular affirmation. Someone would notice a new haircut, a nice outfit, weight loss, whatever. "You look great today," was just part of existing. As a man, nothing. I could show up in a new shirt, freshly groomed, making an effort, and just silence. No one noticed, no one cared, no one commented. This sounds like vanity, but it's actually about feeling seen. Feeling like you exist, and your existence registers to other humans. As a man, I became functionally invisible. I could walk through my entire day without a single person looking at me with warmth. No smiles from strangers, no friendly acknowledgement. Just neutral or vaguely wary glances. The dating thing broke me in ways I didn't expect. I'd spent years rolling my eyes at men who complained about dating, thought they were just entitled babies who couldn't handle rejection. Figured I'd have some advantage. Understanding women from the inside. Downloaded apps as a man, and holy fuck. Sent out hundreds of messages over months. Crafted thoughtful, personalized openers based on profiles. Got maybe a 5% response rate. Most conversations died after a few exchanges. The few dates I got, I was expected to plan everything. Pick the place, make the reservation, drive, pay for everything. One woman I really liked seemed into me. We went out 3 times. I spent probably $300 total. Conversations were good, chemistry seemed there. After the 3rd date, I tried to kiss her. She pulled back. Said she wasn't feeling it, and I never heard from her again. No explanation. No closure. Just ghosted. The rejection was constant and brutal, and I was expected to just keep trying. Keep putting myself out there. Keep facing rejection. Keep paying for meals with women who weren't interested. Keep initiating everything while women swiped through endless options. I'd been on the other side. I knew women dealt with harassment and safety concerns, but I'd never understood this specific kind of soul-crushing invisibility. As a woman, I could open a dating app and have 100 matches in an hour. Sure, most were garbage, but there was abundance. As a man, I was fighting for scraps and expected to be grateful for any attention. Work dynamics shifted in ways I hadn't anticipated. My manager started giving me harsher feedback. The same quality of work I'd always done, but now the standard seemed higher. When I made mistakes, they were pointed out bluntly. No softening. I wasn't incompetent before, but I definitely remember more grace, more second chances. Watched Paula make a similar mistake to one I'd made the week before. William's tone with her was so much gentler. "Hey Paula, just want to flag this for next time. No big deal." With me, it had been, "Lucas, this is unacceptable. You need to be more detail-oriented." I started to realize that the extra scrutiny I'd faced as a woman wasn't actually extra. It was just scrutiny. Normal scrutiny. And as a woman, I'd actually been getting a slightly gentler version. There was no safety net anymore. If I failed, I failed. No excuses. Nobody cared about my personal circumstances or struggles. I was just expected to perform, or get out. Around month 14 of living as male, I got seriously sick. Not hospital sick, but flu that knocked me on my ass. Tried to call in sick. William sounded annoyed. We really need you today. We're short-staffed. Dragged myself in. Felt like death. Worked through it because what choice did I have? Paula had called in sick the month before, and everyone was like, "Oh no, feel better, rest up." I was expected to power through. Nobody brought me soup or checked if I needed anything. Just man up and handle it. There was this moment at my nephew's birthday party that really crystallized things. I was sitting with my brother-in-law, Tom, and some of his friends. My sister was inside with the women, laughing, having animated conversations. I could hear them through the window, that warmth and connection. Meanwhile, I'm out here with the men, and we're just talking about nothing. Sports, cars, work in the most superficial way. I tried to steer conversation somewhere real. "Man, I've been feeling really isolated lately, you know?" Immediate discomfort. Tom just slapped my shoulder and said, "You need to get laid, bro." Everyone laughed. Topic changed to football. I sat there realizing this was it. This was male friendship. This surface-level banter with no real intimacy. And I was expected to be fine with it. Expected to get all my emotional needs met by. Who exactly? The worst incident happened around month 16. I was walking home from the gym at dusk. Same route I'd walked 100 times as a woman. There was a woman ahead of me on the sidewalk. I wasn't paying attention, just walking, listening to music. I noticed she kept looking back at me. Then she crossed the street, clutched her purse tighter, pulled out her phone. I realized she was afraid of me. Me, the person who'd spent years afraid of men in exactly this scenario. I wanted to shout, "I'm not a threat. I used to be you." But of course I couldn't. I was just another potentially dangerous man, in her eyes. Crossed the street myself to give her space. Felt this crushing weight of how I was now perceived. Guilty until proven innocent. A threat by default. There was no way to prove I was safe. My existence in public space was now coded as potential danger. Financially, expectations shifted in ways I hadn't predicted. Went on a date with a woman named Jessica. Split the check, and she seemed surprised, a little put off. Later, heard through a mutual acquaintance, she thought I was cheap. I was making the same salary I'd always made. But now I was expected to earn more, provide more, spend more. My brother made some comment at dinner about how I needed to start thinking about building wealth. Like being a man meant I should automatically be earning more. The pressure was invisible but constant. Be successful, be a provider, be financially stable. No one cared that I was still figuring shit out. I was a man now, so I should have it together. The breaking point came on a random Tuesday, 18 months in. I'd had a brutal day at work, physically exhausted from another unexpected shipment emergency. My back was killing me. I was emotionally drained. Came home to my empty apartment. Realized I hadn't had a meaningful conversation with anyone in weeks. Couldn't remember the last time someone asked how I was really doing. Couldn't remember the last compliment or moment of warmth from another human. The dating apps were a wasteland of rejection. My friends were all surface-level acquaintances now. I was invisible, disposable, expected to tough it out. Just sat on my couch and fucking cried. Cried in a way I hadn't let myself cry in months. Because men don't cry, right? Men handle their shit. Except I couldn't handle it. This wasn't what I thought it would be. I thought I'd escape the bullshit of womanhood and find some easier path. Instead, I found a different kind of prison. One where I was completely alone. Where no one cared if I was struggling. Where I was expected to be strong, stoic, self-sufficient. Where my value was purely functional. Where I could work myself to death and no one would notice or care. I started really thinking about my life before. Yeah, I dealt with sexism and harassment and all that shit. Yeah, I had to fight harder for recognition at work. But I was also held in a web of connection. People cared about my well-being. Friends checked in constantly. I got positive reinforcement and emotional support. When I struggled, people noticed and helped. I could be vulnerable and it was okay. I had been so focused on the disadvantages of womanhood that I'd been completely blind to the advantages. The social safety net, the emotional support, the permission to struggle and be helped. I'd taken all of that for granted. Thought it was just normal human experience. Turns out it was gendered as fuck. Men don't get that. Men are alone in ways I never understood. They're expected to be strong and silent and self-sufficient, to endure, without complaining, to compete in a brutal hierarchy with no safety net. The loneliness is crushing and pervasive, and no one talks about it. I thought about all the men I'd dismissed over the years. Guys who complained about dating or feeling unappreciated. I'd rolled my eyes, called them entitled. Now I was living it, and holy shit, they weren't wrong. This is brutal. This is isolating beyond anything I experienced as a woman. The invisible pressures, the lack of support, the emotional desert. I'd been so convinced that male privilege meant an easier life. And yeah, there are privileges. I don't get harassed sexually anymore. I'm taken more seriously in certain professional contexts. I can walk alone at night without the same fear. But I'd traded one set of problems for another. And in some ways, this set is harder, because at least the problems I faced as a woman were acknowledged. People understood that sexism and harassment were real. But male loneliness, male disposability, the emotional isolation, nobody talks about that shit. Men are just expected to suffer in silence. And if they complain, they're weak or whiny. I ended up writing about my experience. Not publicly, just in a journal, but I was honest in a way I hadn't been before. Admitted that I'd been wrong about a lot of things. That I'd oversimplified gender dynamics into oppressor/oppressed, when really everyone's dealing with fucked up expectations and restrictions, just in different ways. Women's struggles are real and valid, but so are men's. And I'd been so busy centering my own experience as a woman that I'd been completely blind to what men actually go through. The lack of emotional support isn't a small thing. The loneliness isn't a minor inconvenience. The expectation to be strong and stoic and never need help is crushing. Being treated as disposable and potentially dangerous is dehumanizing. I don't regret transitioning. The gender dysphoria was real, and I'm more comfortable in my body now. But I can't pretend this has been easy, or that it matched my expectations. I thought I'd gain male privilege and coast. Instead, I gained some advantages and lost others. Found myself in a different kind of struggle. One that's lonelier and harder in ways I never anticipated. I wish I'd understood this before. I wish I'd had more empathy for what men actually deal with, instead of just seeing them as the enemy or the privileged class. We're all trapped in these rigid gender roles, all suffering under expectations that don't serve us. Women are objectified and dismissed and harassed. Men are isolated and treated as disposable and denied emotional expression. None of this is okay, and we can't fix it if we're not honest about all of it. Talked to my therapist about all this. She wasn't surprised. Said a lot of trans men report similar experiences. The shock of male loneliness and isolation. The loss of emotional support networks. The harsh reality of male expectations. There's actually research on this apparently. Trans men often report being surprised by how much harder emotional life becomes, how much more alone they feel, how much less support they receive. It's not just me. This is a real pattern, and it says something important about how we treat men in society. We expect them to be strong and silent, to not need help or support, to just tough it out. And then we wonder why male suicide rates are so high, why men are lonely and isolated, why they die younger and take worse care of themselves. It's because we've created a system that doesn't allow men to be human, doesn't allow vulnerability or need. I see it so clearly now. See the men around me struggling silently. Jake probably has his own shit going on, but would never say it. William acts tough, but I wonder when someone last asked if he was okay. Tom does the backslapping joke thing instead of ever being real. They're all trapped too. And I was so busy resenting them that I never saw it. Never had empathy for their experience. Now I'm living it, and it's fucking hard. Harder than I want to admit. I posted in an online support group for trans men. Shared some of this experience. Got flooded with responses. So many guys saying, yes, exactly, this. The loneliness, the isolation, the lack of support, the shock of being treated as disposable. One guy said he hadn't received a compliment in 3 years. Another said he'd lost his entire friend group because he couldn't connect with men the way he connected with women. Another talked about the pressure to be financially successful without any acknowledgement of struggle. We were all dealing with the same shit, all blindsided by realities we hadn't understood. It made me think about the men who aren't trans, who've been living this their whole lives, who've never known anything different. How must that shape you? To grow up being told to toughen up, don't cry, handle it yourself. To never receive emotional support or validation. To be treated as a disposable utility. To be seen as a potential threat just for existing. No wonder men are fucked up. No wonder they're angry and lonely and struggling. The system is rigged against them too, just differently. My sister and I had coffee a few months ago. She asked how I was doing. Actually asked. I was honest, told her I was struggling. Told her about the loneliness and isolation. She looked genuinely surprised. I thought things would be easier for you now. I laughed, no humor in it. Easier in some ways, brutally harder in others. Tried to explain the emotional desert I was living in. She looked sad. That's how Tom feels too, I think. He never talks about it, but I can tell. We sat with that for a minute. Her husband, suffering in silence, unable to be vulnerable even with his wife, because that's what men do. They endure and don't complain. It's fucking tragic. I'm at about 20 months now. Still adjusting, still processing. Don't have answers, just experiences. The physical changes have mostly stabilized. I pass completely, no one questions my gender, but the emotional reality is still hard. I've started trying to build a different kind of life. Reaching out more intentionally to create connection. Started a book club with some guys from work. Trying to create space for deeper conversation. It's slow going. Everyone's guarded. But it's something. Also, been trying to maintain friendships with women in my life. Show up as someone safe and emotionally present. Prove that men can be vulnerable and connected. It's work, though. Everything is work now. There's no coasting, no safety net. Just constant effort to be enough. To earn enough, to be strong enough, to be successful enough, while also trying to stay human and connected. It's exhausting. Looking back on my younger self, I cringe. All that certainty about who had it harder. All that resentment toward men. I wasn't completely wrong about sexism and male privilege, but I was way too simple in my understanding, thought in terms of oppressor and oppressed. Didn't see the full picture. Didn't understand that everyone suffers under rigid gender roles, just in different ways. Women are objectified and dismissed. Men are isolated and treated as disposable. Both are dehumanizing. Both need to change. But we can't change it if we're not honest. If we keep pretending only one side struggles. Men are struggling. Profoundly, deeply struggling. In ways that are invisible and unacknowledged. And I had to become one to understand it. The physical labor expectations that assume strength regardless of ability. The emotional isolation that leaves you completely alone. The lack of positive affirmation or care. The brutal dating landscape. The workplace disposability. The social invisibility. Being treated as a threat. The pressure to suppress all emotion. The financial expectations. The assumption you can handle pain and illness alone. The crushing loneliness. All of it is real. All of it is hard. All of it grinds you down day after day. I get it now. I get why men are the way they are. Why they seem emotionally stunted or angry or withdrawn. This is what the world does to them. This is the reality they navigate every single day. And I'm sorry I didn't see it before. Sorry I was so wrapped up in my own experience that I couldn't empathize. Sorry I dismissed male suffering as entitlement. It's not entitlement to want emotional connection, to want support and care and acknowledgement, to want to be seen as human, not just functional. Everyone deserves that. And men aren't getting it. They're drowning in silence, and we pretend everything's fine. Because they're men, they're privileged, they should handle it. But privilege doesn't mean life is easy. Doesn't mean you're not suffering. Just means you have advantages in certain areas, and often crushing disadvantages in others. I have both now. The advantages of being perceived as male, and the brutal disadvantages. Wouldn't go back because the dysphoria was real. But I also can't pretend this matched my expectations. Can't pretend I understood what I was getting into. Life as a man is unforgiving, isolating beyond measure. Harder than I ever imagined sitting in my apartment as a woman complaining about male privilege. That version of me had no idea. Thought she understood everything. Had it all figured out. She was wrong. So fucking wrong. About so many things. And now I'm here, living the reality, navigating the harsh landscape of manhood, trying to stay human in a system that treats me as a disposable utility, trying to find connection in a social structure that isolates, trying to be vulnerable in a culture that demands stoicism. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, and I do it every single day. Without recognition, without support, without acknowledgement. Because that's what's expected. That's what being a man means. And I finally understand, finally see what I couldn't see before. Men have it hard, really, truly hard, in ways that matter deeply. And we need to start talking about it. We need to start acknowledging it, because they're suffering in silence. And silence is killing them, killing us. I'm one of them now, and I see it so clearly. The prison we've built for men, the impossible expectations, the emotional wasteland, the profound loneliness. It's real. It's brutal. And I was blind to it until I lived it. Now I know, and I can't unknow it. Can't go back to simple narratives about privilege and oppression. I have to sit with the complexity, the uncomfortable truth that everyone's trapped, everyone's suffering, just in different ways, and we need to care about all of it. We need to fight for everyone's liberation, not just the struggles we personally understand. That's what I learned. That's what becoming a man taught me. Empathy isn't just for people like you. It's for everyone navigating impossible systems. Everyone trying to be human in a world that won't let them. Men included, especially men. Because no one else is fighting for them. No one else sees their pain. And it's destroying them, one silent day at a time.